Word to the wise, if you're looking to set up a straw poll, make sure you use strawpoll.me, not strawpoll.com, otherwise your straw poll is gonna just disappear in a few days and you'll be SOL. One of the common things that I see people request of Degrassi for storylines is to have a female who's abusing their male significant other, but we already had that actually. Esme was abusing Zig. Sure, it didn't manifest in outward threats or attacks on his physical person, but it was still an abusive relationship. She didn't try to control Zig with physical force, it was all mental and emotional. The thing about Esme, in most situations where she's fighting with Zig, she always plays the emotion card to make him pity her and make him sort of question any rightful issues he has with her. Esme diverts the conversation and instead redirects Zig's energy to other people, like she did with getting Zig to bully Sod to push away the fact that she got naked for a guy while in a relationship with someone else. The whole time she was orchestrating all the players on the field. Though it wasn't the case, as soon as it was suggested that Zig might be into Frankie, she brought Frankie into their relationship to make sure Zig doesn't stray away. She demands to be a part of everything in Zig's life to the point where she feels offended if she's not invited to any outing Zig has with other people. And it's not really until they all went camping that we start to see Esme openly try to exert force on Zig, making a show of going into the tent and waiting for Zig to come crawling back on his knees, try to distract him with sex appeal, and then finally just get him to pay attention to her and be concerned about her by faking an allergic reaction. And lest we forget, she does get physically violent with him. Sure, it doesn't come until she feels like she's losing all control over him, but it's still there. Not only did she push Zig down a hill, but she was also throwing punches right before. And then when her motorcycle scheme didn't work, after taking her anger out on the bike itself, she turned her anger to Zig. And we get the sense that if she didn't let go of that bike helmet, that was gonna hit Zig in the head. And she wouldn't have minded until he fell to the ground and got a hold of what she actually did. I think part of the reason why we don't think of Esme as being abusive is because she's not hitting Zig all the time. She's not grabbing his wrist or threatening him with physical force. Her method of choice is mind games. And we see this especially with how she reacted when Miles was trying to cut her out of his life. She faked a suicide attempt to get him to pity her and think that if he dare leaves, she's going to kill herself. Another angle that I find really interesting is how the fandom thinks about Esme versus how they think about Rick. I did 2 straw polls, asking what people thought about Esme and what people thought about Rick. Both got the same amount of votes, and while some of the answers are rather similar to each other, there is something very interesting that I find about it. At least 4 people thought that Rick should be locked up for abusing Terry, but no one thought Esme should be locked up for abusing Zig. I can see part of it being that Esme's abuse of Zig was more hidden, and you really need to rewatch those episodes with the knowledge that we have of season 4 in order to see what was happening. Another part of it could be that she didn't attack him physically up until the very end, but then it also raises the question, could it be dependent on who's being abused in the relationship? There's a common perception that men can't be abused. They can't be made victims physically, especially by women, which of course is completely untrue and very hurtful to our society and actually helping people who do end up as victims. Something else I'd like to know is the people who voted for Rick having done bad but could have been redeemed, were you thinking in terms of before the shooting or after the shooting? Because I wonder how we would have seen Rick as a person, seeing him trying to recover from being an abusive jerk, kind of like what we're gonna see of Esme. Right now it seems the fandom is overall in love with Esme, partially because she's just such a wild card and someone so interesting and different from all the other characters, and I wonder if they would have seen Rick similarly as he was trying to repent for hurting Terry. There's actually a lot of similarities between the two. After they seriously hurt their significant other, they both have moments of sobriety and just freak out about what they've done. They promise things will be better, but in the end just keep resorting to their old ways. When they're hurt, they project that hurt outwards. Though of course there is inner turmoil, especially with Esme, you still wouldn't want to be around either of them in those situations. I don't really have any answers to the questions that I bring up, especially because, well, Rick's story ended in a very definitive way, but something really interesting to think about. And it's moments like these where I'd want to sort of take a time machine back in time to see what people thought about Rick before time stands still. I wouldn't be surprised if people thought of him like they do with Esme right now. He's done bad, but could be redeemed, especially because much of early season 4 spends a lot of time getting us to love Rick and understand that he's trying to make up for the evil that he's done. Thank you very much for consuming this video, and what do you think about Rick and Esme? Are there more similarities that I didn't bring up in this video? Where do you think Rick could have gone as a character if he didn't pull the trigger, or if he would have just went home with the gun? And what do you think we could expect with Esme in Season 5? Thank you very much again, and until next time.